last month I had the opportunity to travel to Korea for the very first time. I did half the trip solo with the help of a few local friends, so shout out to Busan and Jeff for showing me around, and the other half with a group of friends from Australia. We went all over Korea, we saw a good amount of city and quite a lot of the countryside, and it was an incredible experience. I can't recommend it enough. I knew that for this trip I was going to be doing a lot of walking, and that definitely was the case, and so I decided to travel a lot lighter than usual. I brought my X-T5 as well as two compact prime lenses. So I went for the 18mm f2 and the 35mm f2. Both of these lenses produce really beautiful images. They both have pretty reliable autofocus, and they both have that maximum aperture of f2. I don't do a lot of low light photography, to be honest. Most times when the sun goes down, my camera goes back in the bag. So these two compact prime lenses made a lot of sense to me. And I didn't feel like I missed out on any versatility at all. I would just pick between the two lenses based on the field of view that I wanted, and doing a lot of the framing and composition just by moving my feet. For this video, I thought I'd change up my approach a little bit rather than just show footage and photos from the trip. I thought I'd talk more in depth about some of my favorite shots, how I actually captured them, how they came about, and why I like them. And if you like this format of video, let me know down in the comment section below. I'd really love to hear what you guys think. Got my phone here with some of my favorite images, and we're just gonna go through them one by one. So how this photo came about, I was just walking along Haeundae Beach with my friend Jeff. We were actually just shooting around sunset, just trying to find interesting things to take photos of. And we were around this dock area, and we walked past a few fish markets, and I believe that's what this is. I think it's the front facade of a fish market. And then you have these two ladies here out the front. And I saw this scene and I immediately thought, wow, this is very symmetrical. I love the lighting, the way that the light was hitting and casting those shadows. I just really thought it was special, and I just took a few photos. I think I may have taken about 8 or 10 in total. For me, it's really strong because it feels very candid and very honest, and that was sort of one of the intentions in the back of my mind with this trip. I wanted to focus a little bit less on the touristy photo locations and capture more of the everyday life of what it's like to live in Korea. So this next image I actually captured on the same day, and we were just walking along the beach, and I saw this guy walking with this colorful fan. I believe that those colors have something to do with Korea. I'm not exactly sure what it is. If you know what this flag or what this pattern is, leave it down in the comment section below. But he was using it to sort of shield himself from the sun as the sun was setting. And I don't know, I just saw him standing there and I thought that it was a really interesting image. I don't love the composition as much because the guy on the left doesn't really add to the scene. I think it would be a lot stronger if there weren't those people in the background on the left, and if it was just the subject himself, maybe in the center of the frame. I think this photo could have been a lot stronger. Okay, so next up we have another photo that's taken in a similar area to the last. I was exploring more of the dock, Marina kind of area in Busan, and there are a lot of fishermen and just locals working by the ocean there. I found this composition with this coiled up rope, and I just thought that the way the sunlight was hitting the rope and the scene overall, it looked very flat, but it also had some kind of dimension and depth to it. And I like the depth about this photo. I like that you can sort of get a feel for where it is because of the lighthouse. And it's quite a balanced composition. You've got the lighthouse more on the left side of the frame and then that rope on the right side of the frame. I also love how it's quite monotone. There's not a lot of crazy color going on in this photo. And yeah, this scene just really caught my eye, and I ended up really liking the photo. I actually took a lot of different photos along this break wall, some photos with fishing equipment in them, which I thought turned out really cool. Another reason that I decided to go to Korea, particularly at this time of year, was to capture the cherry blossom. So this is another image from Busan, and I really love this one because of that roadway that kind of snakes down through the image, as well as the cherry blossom flowers kind of balancing it on top. And I love that our eyes are being guided down to this couple who are sort of walking along the road and taking photos. It was quite an overcast day, and I actually snapped this photo while we were driving. So I told Carlo, who was driving the car, just to stop. I jumped out and I quickly snapped this photo, and I think it was definitely worth it. So speaking of driving, we did do a little bit of a road trip, and we were driving from Seoul to Busan. And on the way down, we just happened to be driving along the highway through the countryside, and we saw what looked to be a like a row of farms with a river, as well as this laneway of cherry blossom trees. And we actually decided to pull off the highway and tried to find the area that we had just passed. And I'm so glad that we stopped here, because it was just an absolutely beautiful scene that I don't think we would have experienced if we took the train or a bus. And I was able to capture 2 photos that I'm really happy with. So the first one here was on this bridge that was going across the river, and you've got some people fishing as well as a commuter on a moped. I really like this photo because of the dynamic lighting. It was backlit, you can see the sun setting behind, and I really liked the leading lines of the bridge. I just thought it was a really nice balanced composition. You've got the fisherman on the right hand side, the guy on the moped on the left, and I thought this photo really stood out because of those reasons from the rest of the photos that I took on that afternoon. So the other photo that I was able to capture was along this laneway with all of the cherry blossom trees, and I was hoping to frame the flowers sort of in the top right hand corner, as you can see here, and then the mountains in the bottom left, as well as that roadway and the bridge that you saw in the earlier photo. And I actually used a closed down aperture for this shot just to get a greater depth of field. I'm not sure exactly what the setting was, I'll put it up on the screen here, but it is a good example of when I would use a closed down aperture to try to capture more detail in the photo. I believe this was just as the sun was setting or just after the sun had set. I just love the color palette of this photo. Sometimes when I'm walking along, I will just see a combination of colors or patterns that for some reason just grabs my attention, and that's exactly what happened with this image. I saw this purple bench while we were exploring the Gamcheon culture village. Very simple photo. I think what I like about this one most is just the complementary color and just the shape and texture of the bench. I thought it was really interesting. On our road trip, we were also able to stop in the city of Daegu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the cherry blossoms here were absolutely insane. But I was able to snap this photo, which I thought was really nice. I also love that branch that kind of cuts through the frame and then curves up at the top. I think it really helps with the composition overall of the photo. And the sun was shining bright on this day, literally perfect conditions. And yeah, I really love this photo. Okay, so now for a couple of photos in Seoul, and I was actually on my way to drop off some film that I had shot, and right next door to the film lab, I saw this hot dog restaurant, and I just loved the way that the light was hitting the front facade. You had one of the workers inside, which I felt added a lot of depth to the scene, and these colorful drink crates out the front, this mixture between American and Korean sort of brands, which I really liked, and so I thought it was a really interesting scene. So I shot this image, which is more of a close-up on the 35mm lens, just so you could see the brands on the crate a little bit more, and then also the person inside the restaurant was a little bit more noticeable in the image. I was with my friend Gisan, and we wanted to stop for coffee, and he decided to show me this very, very hidden cafe, which when we went up the stairs was actually full of people, and it was mid-afternoon, and there was this light beaming through the window at the rear of the restaurant, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to take a photo there. And just as we were leaving, I was able to snap this image of the woman sitting by the window, and I just really loved the lighting in this shot. I think that's what really made it stand out for me, that really strong light coming through the window and creating this really interesting silhouette. I love the colors in this image as well. Her phone case as well as the chair were both this very similar green color, which I actually really liked, and then that very vibrant red of the mug on the table. Okay, so last up, another one of my favorite photos that I took in Seoul, and we just finished visiting this temple. We were walking away down the street, and I saw these 2 buses on the road with the temple in the middle, and I just thought it was a really nice symmetrical scene. But on top of that, I'd just been looking at all of these temples and noticed a pattern with all of them is that they seem to all have this red and green color scheme. And so when I saw the red and green buses on either side of the temple, I just thought it was a really cool moment. Just the way that these 2 colors complemented each other on the buildings that I was just looking at, but then also in this random scene with these 2 buses. It was peak hour traffic, so perhaps my expectations are a little bit high with this critique, but I thought it would have been just much more of a clean composition if there weren't all of those other random cars in the middle, if it was just like a clear street, the 2 buses on either side, and then the temple in the back. But you can't have everything all the time. Alright, so that's it. That wraps up my trip to Korea. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know know if there were any standouts or any favorite images that you liked from the trip. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. And let me know if you like this format of video, because if you did, I might try it again in the future. Before I go as well, I do want to mention that all the photos in this video were edited with my Lightroom preset pack, which you can find down in the description below. And I want to thank you guys for joining me on the channel once again. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video.